So the first thing I want to talk about is Beeble Canvas. And honestly, this is one of the most interesting AI tools I've seen recently because actually it feels targeted towards compositors and VFX artists instead just content creators. Most AI tools right now are type prompt, generate image or video and done. But Beeble is talking about relighting, compositing workflows, node style systems, production integration, and certain level of artistic control. That's the most important part because for the last couple of years, AI tools mostly lived out of the pipeline. You generate something, export it, then manually brought into Nuke or Comp. But now we are starting into AI move into the compositing workflow itself at a certain level. And I think that is the real industry shift started to happening in 2026. Not AI replacing artists overnight, but AI slowly become another layer inside the production pipeline. And honestly, compositing is probably one of the first departments where this become practical because compositors already work in layers, masks, cleanups, integration, and iterative workflows. So AI assisted compositing actually makes more sense than people think. Now, obviously, we're still far away from replacing high-end comp work. Anybody who has worked on a feature film shots know how insanely specific light notes can get. But tools like Beeble show where the industry wants to go. Faster iteration, automation, and assisted in accelerating. Whether people like it or not, this trend is started to accelerate. Now, connected to that, this is something much more technical. Foundry released new Cattery model called LPIPS, and I know the moment hear the word, half of the audience immediately disconnects because this is actually pretty important. Basically, it is an image comparison method designed to evaluate the images more like how human perceives them instead of just comparing raw pixels. And that matters a lot for machine learning workflows because traditional pixel perfect comparisons don't always match what human thinks looks correct. Two images can technically different at the pixel level but visually looks identical. And AI workflows need a better perceptual evaluation system. Now, why is this interesting? Because it shows Foundry is quietly preparing for Nuke for more AI and machine learning workflows in future. On this video, but technically it says a lot where the industry is going. And honestly, I think Foundry understand that composing software in the future won't just process the images. It will also manage AI models, automation, assisted workflows, and procedural AI system. Next is Photoshop 27.7. Now, at first glance, Photoshop sounds like another normal AI feature update. But honestly, I think most important part of this update is not the remove tool itself. It's the fact that Adobe is now giving users that option to run AI processing locally on their own machine instead of only through cloud. And I think that's much bigger industry signal than other people realize. So basically the updated remote tool now let artists choose cloud based AI processing or on device AI processing locally, which means Photoshop can now generate cleanup results directly using your computer hardware without sending everything to external servers. And honestly, this feels like something beginning of very important shift in creative softwares because for the past couple of years, most AI tools depend heavily on cloud infrastructure, but studios and professional artists has been running into real concerns about privacy, security, internet dependency, and pipeline control, especially in film and VFX production. Studios do not want sensitive shots constantly moving through external clouds systems so it can avoid it. So seeing Adobe push local AI processing is actually very significant. Now let's talk about Fusion Studio 21 because every single time Fusion gets a major update, the same conversation comes back again. Can Fusion finally compete with Nuke? And honestly, technically, the Fusion keeps improving. We are seeing better USD supports, deep compositing improvements, workflow updates, and pipeline focused features. And Blackmagic clearly wants Fusion to become a serious high end compositing alternate. Here is the thing most people outside the production don't fully understand. The real monopoly isn't just software, it's a pipeline infrastructure. That's the hard part. Studios already built tools, templates, scripts, training system, and pipeline integration around Nuke for many years. Changing software inside a studio pipeline is like changing the foundation of the building. It's very risky and expensive, and productions hate that risk. So even if Fusion becomes technically excellent, adoption still becomes a difficult part. And I think this is why so many artists competition in compositing software. Because whether people admit or not, most artists feel like market has become too dependent on one ecosystem. But at the same time, replacing industry standard infrastructure is incredibly difficult. That is why this conversation keep repeating every year. And honestly, I think the next real competition to Nuke may not even come from traditional compositing software. It might come from AI assisted hybrid pipelines instead. Now we need to talk about the Punisher one last skill VFX shot that has been getting roasted online last week. Every few months, the internet rediscovers the VFX pipeline again. People see one unfinished VFX shots and immediately jumps to VFX is getting worse. But honestly, most of the time, what you are seeing is nothing behind what happens actual production. Modern VFX pipelines are operating under insane schedules. Studios want faster delivery, constant revisions, streaming deadlines, and multiple versions, and last minute changes also. And eventually, some shots simply don't get enough time to polish. Obviously, audience will still react to what they actually see on screen. That's normal. But I do wish more discussions focus on production condition instead of blaming the individual people who worked on that shot. Because most artists are already doing some kind of efforts to make impossible deadlines to work to make things visible on the screen. And honestly, this conversation keep happening because industry still hasn't stalled between speed, quality, budget, and scale, especially in franchise filmmaking. Now, this next story might be actually one of the most important VFX industry moves this year. Foundry acquired Griptape, and honestly, I don't think enough artists realize how important this is yet, because this isn't about Foundry adding another AI feature, that is Foundry preparing for a AI orchestration inside the production pipeline. That's a huge difference. For the last couple of years, AI industry was obsessed with models, better image generation, video generation, LLMs, and faster GPUs. That was the experimental phase, but now studios are started to ask completely different question. How do we actually control all this AI system inside real production environments? Gripe Tapes helped a lot for this question. It is basically designed to manage and orchestrate multiple AI systems while keep things secure, traceable, and pipeline friendly. And honestly, the word traceable is incredibly important for studios because big facilities actually care about security, version tracking, reproducibility, local deployment, and pipeline integration. According to Foundry and multiple reports, the plan is eventually integrate grip tape workflows directly into tools like Nuke. Honestly, I think this acquisition says something very important. Foundry does not want to Nuke become just a compositing software. They want it become more AI enabled production platform. That's a interesting industry and whether artists love AI or hate it, this is where probably where high-end pipelines are heading. Now I was looking through some of the newly published SIGGRAPH 2026 talk schedules, and honestly that the topic themselves tell you exactly where the VFX industry is heading right now, because the conference field divided into two very different worlds happening at the same time. One side, you still have traditional high-end VFX engineering pushing realism to insane levels. And other side, the industry rapidly moving towards AI workflows, real-time systems, procedural automates, and hybrid pipelines. Honestly, both directions are happening simultaneously. There are a bunch of water stimulation talks about Avatar Fire and Ash movie. One thing that immediately stood out for me was how many talks are focused on water stimulation for Avatar Fire and Ash movie. There are entire presentations for foam stimulation, floating debris, voxel system, water interaction, geometry consistency between live action stimulation. And honestly, this is why VFX feels like one of the final bosses of large scale stimulation work. And I think people outside VFX sometimes underestimate how insanely difficult these combinations are because directed wants make it physically accurate but also cinematic but also controllable, which is basically nightmare for a mode of stimulation work. And finally, a positive note as VAM Awards. The VAM Awards continue to grow more visibility to Indian VFX talent and studios. And honestly, I think this matters more than people realize because Indian artists has been carrying a massive amount of global VFX force for years now. But industry recognition often lags behind the actual contribution. So it's good to see some spotlight on artists, studios, and technical artists talent from this region, especially now when the global industry itself is going through so many changes. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Topic Room VFX channel.